Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are focusing on section 4 of the badging task list, which covers tests. All right, we are going to jump right in and begin building our test. So on the task list, the very first item in this section is to create a test in the Unit 2 folder. And for those of you that are following along, you should already be in your Unit 2 folder. However, if you're not, you will simply need to navigate to the course content area and click into your Unit 2 folder. From here, we are going to hover over this second option at the top, which says assessments, and we are going to choose the first item, which is test. Next, we are going to choose the create a new test option, and there is a create button right next to that. We're going to click on that create button and label our test test. So in the name field, I've typed in the name test. That's all I really need to do here. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom right and choose submit. And the first box on our test section says to open question settings and set the default point value to 2. So from this screen, over on the right-hand side, we see something called question settings. We're going to click on that. We're going to scroll down. Under scoring, the very first item we see is to specify default points when creating questions. The default point value is currently set to 10, and we want to change this to 2. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom right and click submit. From here, we're going to begin by creating our first multiple choice question. So to do that, we hover over this first option called create question, and we're going to choose multiple choice. I'm going to label this 1MC for first question, multiple choice. The students don't actually see what's typed into this question title field. They will only see the question text. So this is where I actually want to enter my question. I've entered the question, what is the correct spelling of my first name? And on our task list, we see that we should set the numbering and show in random order. So answer numbering, I want to choose one of these options, doesn't really matter which one. I'm going to choose the Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3. And also show in random order. So I'm going to put a check mark next to this show answers in random order option. And next, I'm being asked to indicate which is the correct answer selection. So by default, we have 4 answer choices, answer 1, answer 2, answer 3, and answer 4. And again, by default, answer choice number 1 is selected as the correct answer. Now I'm going to type in my answer choices first. And of these choices, answer number 2 is the correct answer. So I'm simply going to make sure that that radio button next to answer number 2 is selected. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom right, and I'm going to choose submit. Next, I'm being asked to create one true-false type question. So again, on the upper left-hand side of our test canvas, if I hover over the create question option, I'm going to scroll all the way down to where I see true-false. And I'm going to label this number 2 TF for true-false. And my question text is something I need to type into this field. Today is Thursday because a true-false type question actually comes in the form of a statement. So I'm saying today is Thursday, and that is actually false. Of course, this is not a great example of a true-false type question because this would only be true or false depending on when the students took this assessment. So the students may actually take their assessment on a Thursday. So in that case, it would be true. But for purposes of this demonstration, we're going to go with this statement as our true-false question. And I'm going to scroll all the way down and choose submit. The next thing we're going to create is an essay type question. So again, I'm going to hover over my create question option. I'm going to find the essay type question and I'm going to select that. And I'm going to label this number 3 essay. Type in my essay question. Once I've typed in my essay type question, I can scroll all the way down to the bottom right and click submit. The next thing we're being asked to do is to update the point value. And the first option under this section is to update the point value by question type. And the type of question is essay. We want you to do this a specific way, and I'll explain the reasoning for that in just a moment. You'll see we have our 3 questions here on this test canvas. And I could very easily come down to essay number 3 and type in a new point value. However, not quite how we'd like you to approach this. We want you to select the question type of essay and change the point value for all essay type questions. So up here at the top of my screen, I see this select by type, question type. If I click on that little arrow next to question type, that's going to give me a drop down where I can choose essay type question. And then right below it, I see a point value field. I'm going to type in 10. And to save this change, I need to choose the update option. So what we did here was, you'll notice right now, if I scroll down, my multiple choice question is worth 2, my true false question is worth 2, and my essay is still worth 2. But what it did was it selected my essay type question, and now I'm going to click update. I see my purple status bar at the top of my screen indicating that one question was updated. And if I scroll down, I see my point value on that essay type question has changed to 10. The reason why we have you do it this way is simply because if you have a quiz or a test that has multiple questions of a certain type, let's pretend we have a 50 question test. 25 of those are multiple choice, 25 of those are true false, and you decided, I want my true false to be less points than my multiple choice question. You can simply select by type, choose that true false type, and change the point value for all of your true false questions at once. You would not have to individually change the point value. So I hope that's a little hint that helps you in the future. Next item on the task list is to change a question to extra credit by individual question. And so I know that I'm working with an individual question type in this case, and I'm going to choose one of my multiple choice questions or my true false question. I'm actually going to choose the true false question, and I'm going to make this extra credit. So to do that, I'm going to click in this point value field where it says number 2 currently, and I see this extra credit option. I put a little check mark next to extra credit, and I scroll all the way down to the bottom right, and I click OK. Now that I've created this test, it's time to deploy it. So we're going to select this test from the Add an Existing Test field, and we're going to choose Submit. We get our purple status bar at the top that our test has been created. We see the name of the test, and now we are brought to all of our options for this test. The first thing we need to do is make this test available, and it says yes. So we're going to change it from no, where it says make available to students, to yes. Set multiple attempts. We're going to choose the number 3. So first I have to put a check mark next to multiple attempts, and the number of attempts allowed, I'm going to type in the number 3. We are going to score the attempts using the highest grade. So I'm going to click in this drop down and choose highest grade. We are not going to check forced completion. We're going to leave this alone. We do have a little purple box that explains why. Next, we are going to set the timer to 30 minutes. And auto submit, we are going to change to on. We're going to set the display date, and we're going to make sure the display after date is in the past. So I'm going to choose yesterday's date. And then we are going to scroll down to where we see show test result and feedback to students. And we're going to choose, instead of after submission, after attempts are graded. And you'll notice by default, the only thing displaying for students after all the attempts are graded is this score per question. And that's probably the best option in this case, considering we have 3 attempts available to our students. We wouldn't want to display the correct answer with multiple attempts. Next, under test presentation, we are being asked to choose one at a time and to prohibit the backtracking. Once we've selected all of those options, we can scroll all the way down to the bottom right and choose submit. We see our purple status bar at the top of the screen that tells us the options have been edited. And next on our task list, we are being asked to make edits to those test options. So in a live situation, If we have deployed a test, but we realized we needed to change the test options for some reason, we need to navigate back to where that test was deployed. In this case, we are in the Unit 2 folder where our test is down here at the bottom. And we click on that action link or contextual menu to the right of that test, and we choose Edit the Test option. On our task list, the first item in this section is to add a user exception. So I need to scroll down to the area where I see test availability exceptions. From this area, I can click on add user or group, and I'm being asked to add a user exception for the student preview user. So I'm going to check off my only user, which is the student preview user, and I'm going to scroll down and click submit. Once this preview user has been added to my test availability exceptions area, I'm being asked to set the timer for 60 minutes instead of 30. So this one student essentially would receive 60 minutes to complete this test. Once I've adjusted those settings, I need to make one more adjustment. Under test presentation, I'm being asked to change or select the option that will allow me to randomize my questions. So I'm going to put a little check mark next to randomize questions, scroll all the way down to the bottom right, and choose submit. I have my purple status bar at the top, and now the last section from the test section of the task list is to enter my student preview mode. So in the upper right hand side, again, I see that left arrow, that right arrow with the little green circle in the middle, looks like an eyeball. I click on that to enter my student preview, and I'm being asked to complete the test. So I know that I need to navigate to my course content area into the Unit 2 folder where I will see the test. I click on the test. I see all of my instructions here. As a student, tells me the test has a time limit of 1 hour. That is for me as the user with the exception. Any other student in this section would receive the 30 minutes that we set the test to be for the general population. I can see that the test will be saved and submitted automatically when my time has expired, and I can save and resume this test at any point until that time has expired. But it also tells me that the timer will continue to run if I leave the test. It also tells me that it has multiple attempts. So I can go ahead and click begin when I'm ready and complete this test. So the first question I have received is this essay type question. The question is, please tell us about your plans for the weekend in detail. And my detailed response is hopefully not much. I'm going to click to my next question by using the arrow either on the lower right-hand side of my screen or the sort of middle right-hand side of my screen to move to the next question. I have my true-false type question. Today is Thursday. That is in fact false. I'm going to move to my next question, which is, what is the correct spelling of my first name? And I'm making my choice and choosing save and submit. I get a little pop-up message at the top that tells me the test submission confirmation. I can click cancel to return or OK to submit. And I in fact want to submit this assessment, so I'm going to click OK. Tells me my test has been saved and submitted. Lower right, I can simply click OK, and then I can exit my student preview. And that concludes the test section of the badging task list.